but tonight I want to go over what I get asked about all the time, my most common request, which is great hip openers. Definitely a popular topic among my clients who are in my Yoga for Runners programs. Runners get very tight hips, but also just people in general. A lot of us wind up sitting at a desk all day in front of a computer, and our hips just get tight from sitting that way. So tonight I have my yoga mat set up. I'm just going to talk you through a nice sequence. Feel free to follow along if you'd like to. So to begin, I'm going to start in child's pose because I want to open my hips a little more. I'm going to bring my knees closer to the long edges of my mat, which helps to open the hips. If you have really tight hips and if this is uncomfortable for you, you can keep your knees in a little closer. If you're very tight, you can grab a yoga block. So when you fold forward, you can rest your forehead on the yoga block. Or if you're a little more open, you can bring your forehead to the mat. So what I'm going to do here is take a few deep breaths in and deep breaths out, bringing my attention to my breath, using that to help carry away my thoughts, letting go of my thoughts. So take a deep breath in, deep breath out, deep breath in, deep breath out, taking one more big breath in, and I'll curl my toes under, pressing back to downward facing dog. I'm pressing my heels towards the mat, lengthening the backs of my legs, pulling my shoulder blades down my chest, or down my back as I pull my chest towards my thighs. And always having the option to pedal your legs a little bit to help loosen out the backs of your legs, slowly bringing one heel down and then the other. But wherever you're at, keeping your ears between your arms as you bring your heart a little closer to your thighs. And finding stillness through your legs. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more inhale. Then I'm going to look forward, walking my feet towards the top of my mat. My feet are hip width apart, so I can take two fists, placing them between my feet. That's all the further apart they need to be hip distance. Your hips are a lot narrower than you think they are normally. If you have very tight hamstrings, bend your knees a lot. And grabbing opposite elbows with opposite hands, you can gently sway side to side. But you're thinking about releasing through the hamstrings, the backs of your legs, so you can loosen the bend in your legs a little bit, straightening your legs just slightly until you find a nice, easy pull through the back of your legs. So just nice, gentle stretch, not straining. Taking one more deep breath in and release your hands to the mat, forward fold. Come to a halfway lift on your inhale. Fold, exhale. I'm going to come back to a halfway lift on my inhale, and then planting my hands to the mat. I'm going to keep my right foot forward as I step my left leg back for a low lunge. I can stay here, or I can bring my bottom knee to the mat. And I'm pressing my hips forward. You have an option here if you'd like to deepen the stretch. If your knee is on the mat, to bring your hands to your front knee, pressing your hips forward. What we're doing here is stretching through the hip flexor of the left hip. And just taking some deep breaths in and out here. Releasing any thoughts. From here, I'll bring my hands back to the mat. I'm going to shift back, stacking my hip over my back knee, and my front foot is flexed. I'm pulling my heart closer to my thigh, stretching through the hamstring of my front leg. This is half splits, half Hanumanasana. And continuing to breathe. Deep breath in. Deep breath out, sink just a little bit deeper. And then shift your weight back forward, coming into lizard lunge. So hands come to the inside of your front foot. And you can keep your foot where it is. If your hips are a little more open, you can toe heel your feet out to the top, or the right foot, up to the top corner of your mat a little bit, letting your foot fall to its knife edge. So you can stay here with your hands on the mat. You could take a block in front of you and rest your forearms on the block if you'd like to. Or if you're more open, you can bring your forearms all the way down to the mat. And I'm allowing my right knee to fall open, releasing through the right hip, using deep breaths to carry me through this pose. So in my mind, I'm visualizing the tension that I feel in my hip. I'm visualizing it coming into my breath, and then as I sigh out, or as I exhale, I'm letting that tension go, helping to release the tension in my hip. And I'll come carefully back up, bringing my foot back to the midline. Hands come back to the mat. I'm going to curl my back toes under and step back to downward facing dog. And I'm just going to pedal my legs out a couple times to help get the blood flowing back through my right leg. On my inhale, I'll sweep my left leg up, bringing it forward for a low lunge, and doing the same thing on the other side. So you can stay here, bringing your hands to the mat, pressing your hips forward, or you can bring your bottom knee to the mat. Again, option to keep your hands on either side of your front foot, or you can bring your hands to your front knee, pressing your hips forward, stretching through the right hip flexor this time. Maybe closing your eyes, taking deep breaths in and out, feeling the nice stretch, feeling your hip flexor release just a little bit. And then carefully shifting back, flex your front foot. Your hips are stacked over your back knee, pulling your heart towards your thigh, keeping a flat back. Think inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, melt just a tiny bit deeper. And then carefully shift your weight forward. Again, move your left foot out towards the edge of the mat this time. You can move it up towards the top corner as well. And then bring the foot to its knife edge. Again, you can keep your hands on the mat. You can bring your forearms to a block, or you can bring your forearms all the way down to your mat for a lizard lunge. Once again, focusing on your breath to help you release the tension in your left hip. Let it go. So taking a deep breath in, deep breath out, release a little more. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Coming back to your hands if you're not there already, bring your foot back center. Once again, curl your back toes under, step back, downward facing dog. And again, pedaling your legs out, bringing one heel close to the mat, then the other, releasing the tension from your hips. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Look forward, walk your feet through your hands, coming onto your seat. And let's roll onto our backs, bringing the soles of our feet together, knees wide for Supta Baddha Konasana, bound or reclined bound angle pose. You can bring your hand to your heart and to your belly. This is a nice way to connect with your breath and your heartbeat. So clearing your mind as you take deep breaths in and out, allowing your knees to fall closer to your mat, letting gravity help open the insides of your hips. Slowly close your knees like a book, hugging your knees in, coming into reclined pigeon. I'm going to flex both feet, crossing my right ankle just above my left knee. It may be enough stretch where you can keep your bottom foot on the mat, and that's enough of an intense stretch on the outside of your right hip. So you could stay there, or you can pull your your left knee in. You can hold it here, or you can grab a hold of either your thigh or your shin, pulling your legs in. So you should feel this again as a stretch through the outside of your right hip. Once more, using your breath to help you open your leg, open your hip. So take a deep breath in. And imagine sighing out tension, letting it go. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more big inhale. One more big exhale. And then carefully release, just bringing both feet to the mat, windshield wipering your feet or your knees back and forth. And then flex both feet, coming into reclined pigeon on the other side. Again, option to keep your bottom foot on the mat if you have very tight hips. You can bring your leg in a little closer, grabbing either onto your thigh or to your shin, pulling the legs in for a stretch. And again, using your breath, taking a deep breath in. Maybe pulling in a little deeper on your exhale. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Big inhale. Let it go on your exhale. One final inhale, nice and long. One final exhale, releasing. Bring both feet back to the mat. Again, windshield wipering your legs back and forth. And then hug your knees in and just roll up to a seated position. Setting up for cow face legs. If you'd like, if you have a block or a pillow, you could do a supported version of this. I'm going to bring my left heel into my left hip, and then my right leg stacks on top. Ideally, my knees are stacked on top of each other. They may not quite get there if you have tight hips. You can play around with the positioning of your feet as well, whether they're further away from your seat or closer to it. So we'll ignore the arms, since that tends to be in cow face pose. It's pretty an intense shoulder stretch. You need to be very open. So instead, I'm just going to focus on the hip opening qualities. So you could just stay here and hold. If you'd like to make this a more restorative pose, you could grab a block or a blanket and place it, for example, between your chest and your knees. Or even if you have a block, you could fold forward if you're flexible, resting your forehead on the block. So if you're coming into this as a more restorative pose, you want to make sure that you keep your palms facing up. That helps you resist the urge to pull yourself down, and you just let yourself surrender into the pose. So taking a few deep breaths here, take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Deep breath in. And out. Inhale. Exhale. Taking 2 more rounds of breath. Last one. Slowly roll up. Switching out your feet. So once again, stacking your knees if you can, if they're not quite there. If they don't quite overlap, that's okay. Just looking for the stretch through the hip of the top leg. So again, you can stay here if this is an intense stretch, or you have the option to fold forward to deepen it. Once again, coming to your breath, and always knowing that every side is a little different. For example, right now I'm feeling that this is a little tighter on my left side than on my right side. It's going to happen. One side is always going to be tighter than the other. So just know that that's okay. That's totally normal. Just letting go of the thoughts about that and just trying to stay present with your breath. So taking a few more breaths here. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Big breath in. Sigh it out, let it go. And then slowly roll up one vertebra at a time, setting your block aside. And let's end with a little bit of Shavasana. So you have the option, if you'd like to open the insides of your hips a little bit more, to come into a Supta Baddha Konasana version of this, or you can bring your legs long, letting your feet flop where they want to. I always like to shimmy my shoulders under a little bit just to get a tiny bit more of a heart opener. And I'm letting my palms face where they want to go, just falling open. Imagining any last bits of tension melting out of my hips, out of my shoulders. Letting go of any tension in my forehead and my jaw. Once again, lengthening my inhales and my exhales. Attention comes to breath to help clear the mind of any final thoughts. Bringing small movements to fingers and toes, circling out wrists and ankles, and then reaching long above you and below you for a good morning stretch. Carefully rolling up to a seated position. And always ending class with a little salutation. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope you found it helpful. The light and love in me honor and salute the light and love in you. Namaste.